next piece. So the next part says writing the equation from a graph. Very easy. So writing the equation from the graph. Again, two ways to do it. Option A, we solve for y, and we graph using the slope and the y-intercept. Again, we've done that for weeks. Option B, we still need to solve for y. So no matter what happens, calculator or not, we have to solve for y first. So in this one, plug them into the equations into your graph and match the graph. So let's look at number 17. So number 17, to graph a line, it has to have y by itself. In order to get y by itself, I'm going to circle it so that way I know what I'm solving for. Hopefully you are more comfortable with this. You guys have been doing this all week long. So to get y by itself, he wants to be alone on this side of the equal sign. To get y by itself, you move the x to the other side. If this is a minus 2x, I need to do plus 2x. Go to your other side, plus 2x. That leaves me with a positive 3y equals. A 12 and a 2x are not like terms. Do not combine them and add them together. I like to put my x term first because there's a letter there, so I like to put that one first, and then I would put the minus 12 in the back. We need to get y completely by itself, so there's a 3 in the way, so I'm going to divide every single piece by 3. So that leaves me with y equals 2 over 3 does not reduce, that just stays 2 over 3 with an x. 12 divided by 3 is the number 4. It was a minus, so it's minus 4. So now that we solved for y, I'm going to show you how to do it by hand, and then I'll show you how to do it in the calculator. So in this one here, to do this by hand, we take the m, which is 2 over 3, and we take the b, which is negative 4. B stands for begin. I begin on my y-axis at negative 4. You have to count your little lines. 1, 2, 3, 4. My slope is up 2 because it's positive, and to the right 3. Up 2 lines, 1, 2, 3. Up 2 over 3. 2 over 3. Okay, so this is my line. So now I'm going to plug this in the calculator since y is by itself, and we're going to see what this one here looks like. So in the calculator, I go to my graph, again on enter, and I'm going to type it in. Control, divide, because it's a fraction. 2 over 3, right click, the letter x, minus 4, enter. There's my graph. Control T brings me, oh, I don't even need, sorry, we don't need Control T, what am I doing? There we go, it's just a graph. So does my graph match the picture of my graph? Absolutely. This had a y-intercept of negative 4, yep. It had a positive slope going in that direction, yep. So you can always check your graph by plugging it in to the graph function in your calculator, very easy. So try number 18, same idea. We have to solve for y first, no matter what, every single question. If y is not by itself, we need to solve for y. 19 is the easiest question in the history of Algebra 1. So on last year's STAR test, there was a question that looked just like 19. So we need to make sure that you remember how to do the easy stuff when we're giving you all of this more difficult stuff. So number 19, it says, this is an easy question. Do not overthink it. The question is, what is the slope of this line? What we know is that my formula is y equals, oh look, it's already in y equals mx plus b. The slope, which one is the slope? The slope is the one that's in front of the x. The slope is in front of the x. The slope is 15, it's right there. It's the number that's hanging out in front of the x. So the correct answer is B. The slope of the line is the number that is right in front of the x. Very easy. Try the same thing with number 20, just as easy. What is the slope from this equation? It's just the number in front of the x because y was already by itself. If it's in the form y equals, then the slope is the number that's attached to the x. Super easy. Okay, last 2 pages and then we are done. Go ahead and flip. All right, number 21. So number 21 takes a little bit of work, but it's not that difficult, I promise. So in number 21, we have 4 different equations. We have a graph. I need to see which of those equations match this graph. So if we look at this, numbers 2 and 3 are already solved for y, so those are ready to go. So those already have a slope and they have a y-intercept. But numbers 1 and 4 are not ready to go. So let's start with number 1. Let's rewrite negative 4x plus 2y equals negative 2. To get y by itself, we're solving for y. He wants to be alone on this side of the equal sign. He wants everything else away from him. My y is a loner. Let's get that y by itself. The first thing you do is you move your x. They are an x for a reason. If that's a minus 4x, we need to do plus 4x. That leaves me with 2y equals. These are not like terms. Do not put them together. This is a 4x and a minus 2. Get y by itself. Divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2. So my final answer is y equals 4 divided by 2 is a 2 with an x. 2 divided by 2 is a 1. So so option 1 is really y equals 2x minus 1. Goodbye. Okay, so I rewrote this here is now in y equals, that was number 1. So now let's rewrite number 4. So number 4 says y plus 3 equals 2x plus 1. So we're solving for y, but for this one, just for practice, let's get rid of parentheses first. So goodbye parentheses, 2 times x is 2x. 2 times 1 is positive 2. The left side is a y plus 3. Y is almost by itself. To get that y alone, we subtract 3 from both sides. 2 minus 3 is negative 1. So the answer for number 4 is y equals 2x minus 1. We solved for y, so that way we can now graph it. So when we look at this graph, we're going to do this by hand. We're going to practice your abilities. I need to find the equation of this graph. To get the equation of a graph, you guys have done this for several days now. I'm going to find the y-intercept first. The y-intercept is a negative 1 because it touches the y-axis at the number negative 1. M is how much we move. We're moving up to, I say it's the elevator number first, so we go up to, and then our runaway number, and we run 1. So we're moving rise 2 over run 1. 2 over 1 is the same as 2. 2 divided by 1 is just 2. So this graph is the equation y equals 2x minus 1. The most important one. Okay, so that's what the graph is. The graph is the equation y equals 2x minus 1. So now we match. So let's see. Option 1 works. Yay! Y equals 2x minus 1. That matches. Option 2? Heck no. That's a negative slope. This is a positive slope. Definitely not y equals 2x minus 1. This one here, it's close. It's almost the same, but this is a negative. That's not a negative. That's a positive slope. So 3 is not the answer. Option 4, we had to solve for y. Absolutely. That equation is the same as that equation there. So the correct answer for this is that options 1 and options 4 matched the equation of our graph. Tedious, but not impossible. Last section, and then we are done. Woo. Okay, in our last section, we have something called parallel and perpendicular equations. So what we have here, what you need to know is that the word parallel means that that the slopes are the same. So if lines are parallel, their slopes are the same. For example, a slope of 2x would be parallel to any other line that has a slope of 2x. Those slopes are the same, so those are parallel. Perpendicular means they are opposite reciprocal. What that means is you change the sign and you flip the numbers. So for example, if we had 2 over 3x, say we had that was our slope. It's a 2 over 3 with the letter x. So to get the perpendicular slope, it says change the sign. Okay, so if this was positive, my new one is negative. Then it says flip the numbers. Okay, if it was 2 over 3, now it's 3 over 2. And it would be sitting in front of the letter x. So that's how we get perpendicular and parallel. Same slope, same number in front of your x. Opposite, reciprocal. We change the sign, we flip the numbers. So let's put that into action, just a couple questions, and then we're done. Number 23. It says, what is the equation of the line that contains the point 1, negative 2, and is perpendicular to this equation? Perpendicular, what does that mean? Oh, perpendicular means we take the slope. Here's the slope. There it was. We take the slope. We have to change the sign of that slope. If it was negative, now it's positive. We need to flip the numbers. If this is 4 over 5, now it's 5 over 4. So that is the slope that is perpendicular to that slope there. So 5 over 4, letter A does not have a 5 over 4 in it. Letter D does not have a 5 over 4 in it. So now we're looking at option B and option C. So it's one of those for sure, because those both have a slope of 5 over 4. So the number in front of the x is a 5 over 4. But this has to go through the point 1 comma negative 2. How do we check an equation to see if it has that point on its table? We use our handy dandy calculator. But remember, we can only use the calculator if y is by itself. So in option B, I'm going to get rid of that 2. Goodbye. I'm going to put it in the back. If it said minus 2, I need to add 2 to get rid of it, and I put it in the back. So let's check it. So I press on. I go to graph. I need to plug in my new graph. Oops, just kidding. All right, so we're plugging it in. So we are going to graph the function. Y is now by itself. So I'm going to type in 5 over 4. Remember, control divide gives you a fraction. 5 over 4, open parentheses, x minus 1, close parentheses, and I move that plus 2 to the back. Enter. There's the graph. That's great. Graph doesn't help me. I need a point. To look at the table, which has all the points, I press Control T. Does this have the ordered pair 1 comma negative 2? It does not. It has 1 comma positive 2. So B is not the answer. If B is not the answer, nor is A or D, then the answer has to be C. You could check it in the calculator by moving that 2 to the back by subtracting 2. Type it in. Control T. Okay, last page. Almost done. Long review today, but you are almost done. You've made it very, very, very close to the end. All right, question 25. It says the graph of a linear function is shown below. Which equation describes a line parallel to this line, and it has a y-intercept of negative 4? Well, let's look at these answer choices. If the y-intercept, the b, is negative 4, it means we have to have a negative 4 in the back of my equation. It's the b, y equals mx plus b. So it has to have a negative 4. This does not have a negative 4 in the back. This does not have a negative 4 in the back. So it's either A or it's B. So now that's done. Y-intercept, negative 4, done. It says the line is parallel. What did we say about parallel on the last page? We said parallel means same slope. What that means is we need to find the slope of this line, and then it's going to be parallel. It'll have the same slope. To find the slope from 2 points, here's a point. Here's a point. You have two options. You can use the slope formula. You can pull off these points, label them x1, y1, x2, y2, or we can just count our boxes. So that's the way I'm going to go. So in this one here, how many does it decrease? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It drops down 9. Elevator number goes first. And then it goes over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So my slope, remember, change in y over change in x. So the y values dropped down 9. The x values moved over 6. That reduces. If you didn't know that that reduces, you could always just go to your calculator, control divide, and just type it in -9 over 6. That leaves you with a -3 over 2. That is the slope of this line. If that's the slope and they are parallel, it means it's going to have the same slope. So B has the same slope as this guy here. Okay, not too bad. Last question, and then you can go back and try the evens. So number 27, it says, what is the equation of the line that passes through 1, 3 and is parallel to the x-axis? Then find the slope of that. So in this one here, you practice this. We had a whole day to do this, and you're pretty good at it. So what we have, there's y equals and there's x equals. So we're not going to use the calculator and press Control T to look at that point, because in this one here, x equals will not help me. So it says I need the equation that passes 1, 3 and is parallel to the x-axis. Okay, let's see what that looks like. If it passes 1, 3, that means it has an ordered pair, right 1, up 3. Now, if it's parallel to the x-axis, here is the x-axis. Parallel means they look like railroad tracks. It means they don't touch. So here is the line that's parallel to the x-axis. What is the equation of this line? Well, it cuts through the y-axis right here. It cuts through the y-axis at 1, 2, 3. Y equals 3. Oh my goodness. Well, that's a terrible typo, guys. What did I do? Huh. I'm sorry. So these should say 3, 3, 1, and 1. That's a huge typo. Whoops. Number 28 does not have a typo. That one is correct. Sorry, guys. So in number 27, y equals 3. Okay, so if it's y equals 3, it's not B, it's not D. Now, is this slope undefined or is it 0? So to refresh your memory, an undefined slope looks like the side of a U. Undefined. It drops straight down under. That's an undefined slope. A 0 slope looks like the top of a Z. 0. So in this picture, is this undefined or is this slope 0? This slope looks like the top of a Z. So it is a 0 slope. That's my equation. My slope is a 0. Then you have number 28. Not too bad. So when you're looking at this test, I want you to know that this is one of the hardest tests that we have all year. So I hope that you paid attention all the way to this number here. When you practice your evens, you are going to get much better at this material. So before you take it next class, all of these notes here are going to help you out dramatically. So transformation rules, easiest things ever. It changes a slope, it changes a y-intercept. Very, very, very easy. Then we talked about writing the equation. We used option B, which just means we plugged it into the calculator and we pressed Control T. We figured out which equation has these ordered pairs in its table. Not too difficult. So all of these looked like that. Then we talked about writing the equation from a graph. We have to solve for y if there is a graph. Then you could either graph it by hand, or you could graph it by plugging it into the graph in the calculator. Very easy. Then the last thing we did today was parallel and perpendicular equations. Parallel means the same slope, means the slopes are the same. Perpendicular means they are opposite. Reciprocal means they're opposite signs, they change their signs, and then the numbers flipped. Okay? So, if you got all the way to the end of this video, in the comments below, go ahead and tell me what is perpendicular to 4/5. What is the slope that is perpendicular to a slope of 4/5? If this was in the equation, and it says, I want to know the slope that's perpendicular to this equation, what would the perpendicular slope be to that line? Very easy. Drop it in the comments. From the last video, I owe some goodies to 2 people, so I will make sure that you guys get those, especially since Halloween is right around the corner, or today. So if you got all the way to the end, perpendicular, what's perpendicular to the slope? Make sure that you are studying before you take this test. Look through this review before you take it, and you will do well. Good luck on your test on Friday.